Hi, my name is Chen. This channel is a place to slow down and to look honestly at the inner life. There's no belief system here, no self-improvement program, and I'm not promising that you become a better version of yourself. These conversations are quite reflections, influenced by the timeless contemplative wisdom, and by simply paying close attention to lived experience. If you ever felt overwhelmed by your own mind or sense that peace should be possible but could not quite touch it, this space is for you. Now, most of us carry a quiet assumption that freedom, the sense of ease, these feelings of being at home in oneself come sometime later, after you get the thing, the car, the bike, whatever it is, after some things about us change. We may not say this out loud, but many lives are lived as if this is true. This talk is an invitation to gently question that assumptions, not to replace it with a new belief, but to look directly at what's happening right now. To do that, it helps to notice something simple about how the mind operates. Notice where discomfort usually comes from, rarely from what's happening in this exact moment, right? For example, I'm sitting here nice and comfortable, but I could be breaking down to an anxiety attack. It often comes from thoughts. Thoughts about the past, what happened, what shouldn't have happened, or thought about the future, what might happen, what should be avoided, what needs to go right. The moment attention leaves what is here and moves into a story, that moment, suffering arises. Now, this leads to a quiet but important question. What if the difficulty isn't life itself, but rather the habits of living where life is actually happening, here and now, in this very moment? Many contemplative traditions point to this in different ways, but the essence is simple. Freedom is not found by escaping the moment, it appears when the habits of living the current moment soften up. This can sound very abstract, so let's look at this in a very ordinary way. Imagine a radio playing in the background, right? At first, you absorb in the program, the voice, the music, the commentary. Then at some point, something is noticed. You're not inside the radio. You are the one hearing it. The radio keeps playing, nothing needs to be turned off. But the moment that recognition happens, the sound no longer has the same grip. Thought works in very much the same way. Thoughts continue to arise, but what you are is not inside them. This recognition is sometimes called no mind. But that phrase often creates confusion. No mind? What does that mean? No minds doesn't mean thoughts disappear. They still come and go, but it simply means they are no longer taken to be who you are. They are seen as events, like sounds or movements in the body. When that shift happens, there's a natural easing, not because something was achieved, but because something unnecessary is no longer being carried. Here's another way to see this directly. There's something very important to notice about thinking. Sometimes thoughts are intentional. You can decide to imagine a boat right now. Right? Just imagine a boat. Close your eye and imagine a boat. Or you can choose to say hello silently in the mind. But very often thoughts simply appear on their own, and that's most 99% of the time. Memories, worry, judgments, images. Both of these are familiar experiences that we have. So the question isn't whether thought can be intentional. The question is something much more subtle. Because whether a thought is chosen or whether it appears by itself, there's always something that knows it. So let's look carefully. A thought appears, perhaps even the thought, I am thinking this thought. That thought is known, is being aware of. Its sensations appear in the bodies, the feelings, a tightening or release. That too is known. Now look for what is doing the knowing. Is it another thought? Or is it simply the fact of being aware, already present before the thought appear? If attention's turned toward the knower, something becomes clear. The knower does not appear as an object. It is not a thought. It is not a sensation. It is not a feeling. It is the awareness in which thinking, intentionally or not, is happening. Thoughts comes and go. Some are chosen, some are not. Most are not, actually. But the knowing, the awareness of them does not come and go. That knowing is not something you do. It is what you are. When this is noticed, experience is held very differently. When thoughts are believed, the experience feels personal, heavy. This is happening to me. I shouldn't feel this way. I need to fix this. But when thoughts are seen as movements that comes and go, that weight lightens. Emotion still arises and sensations still move, but they are no longer carried as a story of me. They are allowed to pass, and nothing is left behind but peace and ease. This brings a surprising clarity. Freedom is often imagined as something earned, right? We have to work very hard to accomplish it. Through effort, through control, through becoming different. But effort assumes that someone is trapped. So look carefully. Where are the chains that bound you? Not the idea of the chain, but the actual chain. Can you hold it in your hand? No, because you can never experience it directly. It is just another passing thought. Now, a simple image helps make this obvious. Picture a monkey in a tree. A tree is full of branches. The monkey jumps from one branch to another, not because it is trapped, but because that's what monkeys do. Each branch, each a thought. One leads to the next. Now imagine believing I am the monkey and I must control this jumping. Suddenly, every movement feels exhausting and rest feels impossible. But look again. Is the monkey actually bound? Are the branches forcing anything? Or is the struggle coming from identifying with the movement itself? The moment the jumping is simply noticed, seen as activity, something naturally relaxes. The monkey can keep moving, thoughts can keep arising, but there are no longer the sense that someone must manage them. Nothing needs to stop. Nothing needs to change. Freedoms appears naturally. When the movement is no longer mistaken for who you are. This is how this understanding shows up in everyday life. Thoughts arises, plan, worries, judgments. Nothing needs to be pushed away. A thought appears and it is noticed. That noticing doesn't argue, it doesn't analyze. It is already here. And because this isn't involved, thoughts lose their grip on you naturally. This is the heart of the wisdom. Freedom isn't waiting in the future. It doesn't arrive with understanding or more knowledge. It reveals when thoughts are no longer taken to be who you are, when attention rests where it already is, here and now in this very ordinary, simple moment. Nothing special, and yet completely at ease. Now, you don't need to stop thinking. You don't need to fix yourself either. Just notice what's already noticing that has never been absent. Nothing needs to be added. Nothing needs to be improved. Freedom simply is, here and now. Thank you for being here.